Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to do a little review for you on the Makeup Revolution, the Emily Edit, the Wants palette. This giant palette right here. If you didn't see my Get Ready With Me video where I used this palette, then I will link that up above for you. I didn't do a first impression because, as I mentioned in that Get Ready With Me video, I was too excited when I got this and I wasn't able to film, and so I just played with it for one time and then I did that Get Ready With Me video. But I talked about that I was going to do a review on this. It just probably would take me a little time because hello, look how big this thing is. I'm gonna hold it upside down because otherwise I'm gonna blind you with this giant mirror. You can see, mess. So this is what the palette looks like. As you can see below there, there's that huge mirror, but it was gonna take me some time to play with all of these colors because I really wanted to make sure and use every single shade at least once, if not more than that, to get a real feel for how I felt about this palette. And you know, I knew that this wasn't going to be a limited edition palette, so I didn't feel like I needed to rush to get this review up. So if you haven't gotten this palette yet, you know, and I don't know if it's sold out right now, I'll make sure that I link it down below if it is available. But even if it's not available, you can just wait until it comes back in stock. It will. I'm not going to necessarily fill you in on like all of the details about this palette because there are tons of videos, there's tons of information out there, but I will say that this is $20. You can get it either on the Makeup Revolution website or you can get it at Ulta. That's where I got it. At the time, my Ulta didn't have it in my store, but it's going to be part of the permanent display of Makeup Revolution. And so I ordered mine online and it arrived perfectly fine for me. But they also will be having it in stores as well if you want to get it that way. But I absolutely love Emily. I trust her, and I think that she is one of the best YouTubers on here. Honestly, she is incredibly honest and true to herself, and she's just a good person, and she's never done a collab before, and so I knew that I wanted to get my hands on something. She also has the Needs palette if you didn't see that one, but to me, I have all of those shades, so that wasn't something that I really needed. It would be a good thing for me for like travel, but I have plenty of other things. That was just not really what I needed. Hence the name of it. But this one, the Wants, this I wanted. And no, I didn't need this either, but I wanted to support her and it is beautiful. So I knew that I was gonna enjoy it. I mean, I hoped that I would enjoy it. I definitely used coupons on this. I don't think that I used points, but you certainly could use your points. Makeup Revolution is not a prestige brand, so you could use any of the coupons that you have at Ulta. So that's kind of the nice thing about getting it from there. I just love to, you know, earn points at Ulta. It's just one of the best rewards programs out there. But truly, I have been really happy with this palette. I know there are definitely some mixed reviews out there. And do I think that this is the best palette on the planet? No, I don't. For $20 though, it's pretty darn good. I think that if you're looking for a good variety for not a large price tag, this is a great option for you. And truthfully, I think this is a better option than getting something like a Morphe palette. I think these are better. So let's talk about some of the pros and cons about this palette. I may go a little bit back and forth, but I'm gonna look at my notes here and I'm gonna try and kind of hit the pros first and then I'll talk about some of the cons. So first of all, it's a good price. That's definitely one of the things that is really nice about this palette. It's not the cheapest palette, but for this size, for this amount of shadow that you get, like the number of shades in here, that is a very good price. And like I said, you can use coupons and all of those things. And so you can get it at an even cheaper price than it already is. So I think that's really great. I think this is a very nice palette. You know, it's a good quality. So I feel like it's going to hold up well. I don't know if I would travel with something this big unless I was going on a long trip, but if I was, this would be great because, I mean, this is basically like a vanity size mirror. You know, I could use this mirror to do my makeup and just set it up, you know, in front of me on like a desk at a hotel or wherever and do my makeup in it. And it's rare for me to feel that way about a mirror in a palette. Honestly, they are usually too small for me. And while it's nice to have like a mirror in palettes, I don't often feel like I can actually do my makeup in them because I like to sort of be able to see the big picture a little bit and also close up. And so this is a great one, honestly. There's so much versatility in this palette, which is another nice thing about if you were going to travel with it. So if I felt like I was going, you know, on a week-long trip or something like that, I'd feel like I could get every single look I wanted to with this palette, which is really nice. And that's the good thing about it. I feel like you have a lot of your neutrals in there, you know, some of those different tones of brown in there. You've got lots of beautiful berry shades and purples and greens and, you know, gold in there, bronzy shades. You've got a really nice variety. This is not the palette where you're gonna take things in a really like super crazy way that you would if like you had like neon shades and things like that, but you could still get very bold and very creative with this palette. I used this on my eyes today. I used some of the corduroy right here, and I used Prayer and Love Tons up into my crease. On my lid, I did a little bit of a half cut crease. I put on there Pizzazz and Heartbeat to sort of transition between the two. And in my inner corners, I put a little bit of Eve Rose. On the lower lash line, I used some more of Corduroy, Prayer and Love Tons. And then I also topped it off with these 3 shimmers right there. I just kind of like layered them in. So you don't really like see that too much, but that's what I used. And it's a pretty bold look, I would say, you know, still wearable type of shades, but it's bold because I did a cut crease and because they're pretty dark shades. So you could definitely get pretty intense with this one, but there's just there are a lot of different options. I feel like every time I've used this, I can go in so many different directions, and I feel like the looks look very different from one another. I think that these have a very nice amount of pigment in them, but they're not too crazy that you have to be super careful. You could definitely build these up. You could shear them out and make them a little bit softer, which is nice, especially for Emily's audience. Her audience is a very wide range of people, and it's not all people who are wanting to wear a lot of bold makeup and people that are, you know, doing super creative, artsy type of looks. A lot of her audience are just kind of everyday people, you know, who just want a natural makeup look to wear to work or whatever it may be. And so she's really appealing, I think, with this palette to the wide range of her audience. So she was able to please the people that wanted just sort of a natural look. And of course she has the Needs palette as well. But even with just this palette, she's able to cater to the people who want a softer everyday look, and also those people who want to experiment a little bit more, like myself. You know, I think some of these shades have more pigment than others, but I wasn't disappointed with the pigment in any of these. I'll get into some of the cons in a little bit, so we'll hold off on that. I do think that these shadows seem to last really well on my eyes. I haven't noticed any issue with fading throughout the day. I haven't had any problem with that. And I also love the fact that these look on the eyes like they do in the pan. I've talked about that before, but that's something that I think is important. I like to be able to see a shade in a pan and have an idea of what it's gonna look like when I put it on my eyes and know that it's gonna look like that. That doesn't always happen. And I find that these do perform the way that you would expect them to on your eyes. So let's get into some of the cons. So I've noticed, and I think it really only is this shade Eve Rose. I haven't really noticed it too much in the other shades. Maybe it's because I haven't used them as much, but Eve Rose definitely gets some hard pan for me when I wet it, and I feel like these shimmers need to be wet. I wouldn't necessarily call that a con. I think that's just something to note. If that's something that bothers you, it certainly doesn't bother me. I like to wet shimmers unless I really feel like I don't have to, which is pretty rare. So I definitely wet these, and I feel like, you know, with Eve Rose, I had a little bit more trouble because it definitely gets hard pan when you wet it, and I need to wet it. It needs that for me. If you want shimmers to be softer, then you may not feel like you need to do that. And I will say that some of them need it more than others. Like I will say the shade Top Story, I felt like it was pretty intense without wetting it. I still wet it because I prefer to be really bam with my shimmers, but you could have gotten away with it not being wet and still gotten a nice intensity with it. But a shade like Pizzazz really needed that. And even still, even being wet, like I have it on my lid today, I put down a concealer to cut the crease, I wet it, and I still feel like it wasn't quite bam enough for me. So some of these shimmers definitely are a little more subtle, which again caters to some other people. You know, that's something that you know, not everyone wants a super blinding foiled like metallic shade on their lid. I know that not everyone wants that. I wish that you could get there with some of these, and some of these I feel like you can't really quite get there. They're still very pretty though. So I wouldn't say that I was disappointed with the way that it looked on my lid. It couldn't quite get to where I wanted it to be for like my look today, for example. But it's still a very pretty look. I wasn't, you know, I think that it looks really nice. It just, you know, it's a little more subtle of a shimmer to me. I will say that the shade Corduroy, I have sort of a love-hate relationship with that shade. I have to work with that shade a little bit, but it's so beautiful. It's totally worth it to me, honestly. You know, the other thing about this palette is one of the things that I think is nice about this palette, which is that it's so big. The mirror's so big. So for me, you know, it just is a little bit too big. I prefer to have palettes that are a little bit smaller, but I wouldn't say that it bothers me that much, and it does offer you so many options. But if I was to travel with this, because I do feel like it's a good palette to travel with, I would be a little bit worried about it breaking. I mean, if that mirror broke, that would just be a real pain, and I don't, you know, I wouldn't like that, and it would definitely suck to have that mirror be broken because it's a really good mirror. So I would be worried about it breaking. But I mean, it is pretty sturdy, so I don't know. I mean, if you've traveled with this, definitely let me know how it held up. If you put it in your suitcase, you know, this would maybe be one that I would try and put in my carry-on so that it wouldn't have that issue, because, you know, they're never that careful with your baggage. So I don't know, I always worry about packing my makeup, but that's just me. I'm definitely glad that I got this palette. I wouldn't say that I'm disappointed in it. I think it's a really good palette. Like I said, it's not the best palette I've ever used, but for $20, I really think that it matches up to that price. I think that is a really good price for what you get in here, and I really do think the quality is quite good. I wish that the shimmers were a little bit better for me, but that's really the only thing that I would change about this palette. Otherwise, I think that the color variety is so nice. It's something that you don't see that much in a drugstore type of palette, and even in regular palettes, you don't see this kind of variety. And I really, really like that. I think that there's so many options in this, and if you've been wanting to play and you're maybe a beginner, or you're somebody who wants a lot of shades but you just don't want to spend, you know, the amount of money that you would have to at Sephora or somewhere else, I think this is a really good option, and you're supporting somebody who really does deserve it. Definitely let me know in the comments below if you have tried this palette, what you think of it. Do you agree with me on certain things or disagree? I would really love to hear what you think. I hope that you enjoyed this review. Let me know if there are any products that you'd like me to review next. If you like this video, please make sure and give it a big thumbs up. That really does help out my channel so much. I post videos every single Monday and Thursday, 8 p.m. Central Time. If you are not subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. I would love for you to stick around, and I really hope to see you next time. Bye.